Meir Javedanfar, he's a Middle East analyst in Tel Aviv and joins us now. Meir, what do you make of the latest, what do we call it, pullback, the reneging on the deal that Iran reached in 2015?
Well, if you look at it from a domestic Iranian political point of view, the Iranians could say, look, we are under pressure. The Americans not only pulled out of a deal which we were abiding by, they are increasing sanctions against us almost a number of times every year. And our economy has never been under such tremendous pressure. So we can't just sit by and do nothing, because that would be interpreted as a sign of weakness. Therefore, we have to follow a more for more strategy. The more America imposes sanctions against Iran, the more Iran will pressure the US by walking away from the nuclear deal. That seems to be the logic in Iran. And it has its own logic, and you can understand it. But at the same time, it could backfire, because the Europeans are keeping to their side of the deal. And the recent actions which Iran is taking means that Iran is walking away from the deal further and further. And that could mean that the Europeans and the Russians and the Chinese will decide at one point that, hey, the deal is indeed dead, and they will have to perhaps go back to the UN to reimpose sanctions against Iran under Chapter 7.
So you say it's all bargaining from the part of Iran, but if it is bargaining, who holds the balance of power here? Because there doesn't seem to be too much pressure on Donald Trump in terms of his re-election campaign for next year to do any sort of deal with Iran. But we know that Iran's economy is suffering, and suffering significantly.
I actually think the opposite, Adnan. I think yes, the Iranians are under pressure, but Trump is under bigger pressure. Trump is under bigger pressure. Trump has got to go for re-election for November next year. What has he got to show regarding Iran nuclear deal? He said he would get a better deal by walking away from it. He walked away from it. What has he got? Not only hasn't got a better deal, he's actually pushing the Iranian hardliners to call for Iran distancing itself from the deal, and Iran is actually challenging US allies more than it was challenging during the time of President Obama. Yes, the Iranian economy is under pressure, but President Trump is under bigger pressure because he's standing for re-election. And this is precisely why Iran is taking these steps now, because they know he's under pressure, so they want to push him even further to get leverages from him.
Yeah, I can understand that possibly some sort of pressure like that might be coming from Israel, for example. But I just wasn't sure that Trump's base in the United States really cared at all about what's happening with Iran, because they're more interested in their domestic issues. But what about that pressure possibly from Israel as well? Of course, Donald Trump wants to include ballistic missiles in any sort of new agreement, but the more critical missile, the more dangerous missile eventually becomes a nuclear one. Do you think Iran has any intention of ever building any sort of nuclear weapon? They've talked, and they've been threatening today and yesterday that, look, in Fordow we could possibly enrich uranium up to 5% even. That's way, way off what a nuclear weapon needs. But what about the eventual aim of Iran and nuclear weapons?
Well, first and foremost about Trump, we got to remember that 25% of the American population is evangelical, and they are staunchly pro-Israel, and they are far more numerous than American Jews in the United States, who have usually been the base of support for Israel. And they do care, as much as they care for domestic issues, they do care what happens regarding Israel from a religious point of view. So Trump is under pressure there. But in terms of Iran wanting a nuclear weapon, look, we don't know if Iran is making a nuclear weapon. I don't think Iran has a strategy to immediately make a nuclear weapon. I think that Iran sees what is happening in the world, and on a stage-by-stage basis, it decides what to do. But for now, it's about leverage. I'm not sure that the Iranians want to make a nuclear weapon at this time, although it would be easier for them, because Fordow is far better protected than other enrichment sites. It's inside a mountain, let's remember. But the Iranians are trying to get leverage, and the Iranians are trying to show their own population that, look, we will not bow to Trump pressure. At the same time, I think it is my firm belief that despite the fact that the people of Iran want to have a nuclear program for civilian purposes, for them that program is now marginal. There are major economic and environmental problems in Iran which they want the the ruling authorities to address. And it seems that the priority and the focus of the ruling authorities and the regime in Iran is too much on the nuclear program and not on the economy and not on the environment and a host of other social issues, which I think is a far bigger priority for the people of Iran.
Sure. Meir Javedanfar, thank you so much for joining us on TRT World. We appreciate it.